Hello, Mrs. Catherton.
Can I come round and show you the pamphlets for the fete?
Yeah. Just let yourself in, OK? I've just got to do a piece to camera. There.
Oh.
See you later. Our world today is safer than it's ever been. Certainly safer than it was in medieval times. There's no packs of wolves roaming the countryside, gobbling villagers whole and then dabbing their lips dry on the nearest bit of tapestry. No bubonic plague blackening your fingertips and then turning your armpits into putrefied pockets of human wax. No witch finders killing your wife. These days, we've got it easy, and there's ever so little to be frightened of.
But the moment they appear on TV, even the quaintest surroundings can suddenly seem dramatically more dangerous.
The peaceful county of Devon is home to one of England's largest fireworks factories, but the tranquility is shattered when a tiny spark sets off £18,000 of explosives.
Television's slightly hysterical take on the world has a way of colouring your everyday experience, as we'll see throughout this series. It often functions as a magic mirror, providing an endless stream of mesmerising unpleasantness. It shows you arresting tales of gory, bloody murder.
Imagine the height of the backswing to get spray marks that long.
Horrifying visions of mankind's inevitable demise. Eerily disturbing imagery designed to sell you protection.
So who knows what your family could be eating.
And more petrifying news coverage than you can shake a fear stick at.
Is Britain sliding toward chaos?
No wonder all these people are so terrified on the inside. They're not even safe in their own homes as they sit there staring at a machine that warns them worse is to come.
This week, how TV ruined your life by shouting boo in your mind. Don't say it didn't, it did.
It can happen anywhere, to anyone. An ordinary street, a moment's thoughtlessness.
That's a characteristically cheerful public information film, or PIF, one of many thousands of government-approved mini-horror movies designed to fear you into not going all dead. Early public information films consisted of patronising cartoons.
A bicycle isn't at all under control when ridden freehand.
Hysterical bollockings.
Polish a floor and put a rug on it. You might as well set a man trap.
Or cautionary tales which simply barked at you like a Joe Bugner.
Hey, what do you think you're doing? Come back here.
Go on, Joe, knock some sense into him.
If you go on like that, you could be in big trouble.
You know, it's a bit rich taking health and safety advice from a man who hits people in the face for a living. Effectively, this was the man using television to command you, the citizen, to behave for your own good.
That's better. Be smart. Be safe.
This man was safe. Until now.
In the late 20th century, one of the greatest challenges facing the UK was the population's apparent ignorance of how a new technology known as electricity worked.
And anyone who touches him also gets a shock.
Compounding the issue, this widespread lack of knowledge coincided with a nationwide craze for leisure activities involving long conductive objects.
Watch out! Oh, God. Those wires are live!
If you want to have fun and stay alive, keep away from overhead power lines.
Yeah, and if you want to have fun but you're not fussed about staying alive, buy a kite.
Watch out!
Simply wouldn't have happened if he'd used a wooden kite. Idiot. In the light of such carnage, playing with an object not directly attached to your hands might have seemed like a sensible option, unless, like famous electrocution victim Jimmy, you lobbed it up a substation and got pussy whipped into retrieving it.
Go on, get it. Push me that bit of wood.
Careful, Jimmy, you don't want to get splinters breaking into that high voltage substation. Oh yeah, now you cry. A minute ago it was all, oh, go and get it, Jimmy. Oh, do it for me, Jimmy. I mean, I'd call her a typical woman, but she isn't. She's just a horrid little girl. Anyway, against the odds, Jimmy survived that incident and is still alive today.
People still bring up the whole Frisbee thing. And I mean, yeah, it stung a bit, obviously, but it wasn't as grievous as they made out in the film. In some ways, having 66,000 volts zip through you can be quite pleasant. I actually work in toy design now. We're trying to create a less aerodynamic frisbee to protect future generations. Me and Sal are still together. We really bonded after the accident, much as my trainers bonded to my feet due to the intense heat generated.
As we've seen, many early Piffs had a nakedly bossy hue. But today the establishment holds less sway and the man in the street no longer responds to the voice of authority ordering them about.
What would you say if David Cameron told you not to throw a frisbee up a pylon?
I'd do it anyway.
Hence Piffs have changed tack and the authoritarian instruction has largely been removed, leaving behind nothing but cold horror in its wake. Today's Piffs are little more than a ruthless cavalcade of raw physical horror, gory slapstick and jaw-droppingly morbid appeals to personal guilt. Ah, typical kids today, just lying around. Peekaboo! Cheer up, mate, at least you got a free draft excluder out of it. But in our putrid modern hell, it's not just cars and pylons that'll hurt you. No, you're a danger to yourself. If you're not puffing your way to a personal clogged pipe Armageddon, you're boozing yourself dumb and tumbling from a scaffold, or Pete Docketying yourself before heading out on the tiles. Rather than using calm reason, most corrective television uses fear to hammer its message home. It's one of the most powerful ways to grab an audience's attention. But why?
Well, for one thing, no matter how sophisticated we humans appear to be with our fancy shoes and Nintendo Wiis and whatnot, our brains are still cursed with a paleo-mammalian limbic system which the modern iPad-owning part of us can't control.
Our fear responses are governed by twin almond-shaped clusters of nuclei known as the amygdalae, sort of primitive reactionary mind nuts beyond the reach of human intellect, a bit like TalkSport presenters.
The point of the amygdala is essentially protection.
You're supposed to be stimulated when confronted by a loud noise or a sudden movement because, well, it could be a lion leaping in to attack you. That's why it's almost impossible to ignore anything which seems like a threat, be it a lion or a scary newsreader.
A strong possibility of attack. The spectre of Irish terrorism returns to British soil.
The amygdala are also thought to be closely associated with memory, so if you have an unpleasant experience and your amygdala are stimulated, an association quickly forms in your head.
That's why the man uses scare tactics to mould your behaviour from an early age. But when you're a kid, it's not just the stuff that's meant to be frightening that's frightening. That's because children's entertainment has long been a quite hideously disturbing carnival of grotesque imagery, and kids' TV is no different. When I was a child, I was scared of all manner of ostensibly innocent things, such as the manic cackling witch Fenella who lent an air of demented menace to the otherwise charming Chorlton and the Wheelies. Then there was Pipkins, a downbeat lo-fi take on Sesame Street in which a gang of grimy puppets who seemed to be living in some kind of squat wrestled with existential dilemmas.
Why do people have to die? Why can't they just live forever?
Because that's the way it is, Top Half. Everything and everybody has to die. That's just the way it is. Look, I'm going to put the kettle on and make a cup of tea. Sure you'll feel better after that.
God, and if the concept of death has blown Topov's mind, imagine how he'll react when he realises he can't taste that cup of tea because his tongue's made of felt. My enjoyment of the ostensibly harmless Jigsaw was also tempered by regular sightings of Mr. Nosy Bonk, a walking phallic symbol who appeared to have stepped straight out of a prepubescent nightmare. A lot of kids' TV was so creepy it sometimes seemed the people behind it were deliberately trying to scare the viewer with eerie imagery, and the scarier a kids' show was, the more likely it will have lodged in our collective memory. I'm talking, of course, about Orlov.
Do you remember Orlov? It was a kind of egg-shaped thing. Just for the purposes of this, could you say that you do remember him?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember Orlov?
Yeah, I remember him.
What did he look like?
Shape of an egg.
And now on BBC One, egg-shaped animation which everyone in the nation is certain to remember in 30 years' time. Orlov.
Ah, Orlov. Orlov's enjoying an afternoon snooze.
Someone's not happy. That's his nest. What's going on in that little bird's mind? I suppose all animals are ultimately unknowable, even our parents. Little birdie's going up top, and he's got an audience. We're all passive observers of what follows. I wouldn't do that. Now, everything is over. The actors leave the stage.
Yes, during my formative years, mushroom clouds were all the rage.
Britain's doctors say 33 million people in this country may be killed and injured in a nuclear war.
To my babyish eyes, it seemed every news bulletin consisted of nuclear paranoia, Mrs. Thatcher, blood-curdling statistics about the inevitable apocalypse, and the only people trying to stop this madness seemed to be kindly dinner ladies and lofty off EastEnders.
If we have got peace camps, non-violent direct action outside every nuclear base in this country, they can't shift us.
Yeah, except maybe with water cannons or tasers or bulldozers, or I suppose they could always just walk in and physically pick you up. What I'm saying is they can shift you. Despite the high stakes, however, it was hard for the average viewer to picture a nuclear war. I mean, we'd seen what happened in Hiroshima, but that was black and white and crackly and seemed to mainly affect Japanese people living in the 1940s, so it didn't really count. What the average Brit needed was a no-nonsense visual guide to what could happen, and hallelujah, that's precisely what they got. In 1982, the BBC broadcast a QED special called A Guide to Armageddon, which simulated the consequences of a 1 megaton nuclear bomb going pop a mile over St Paul's Cathedral. Apparently, the heat alone would be inconsiderate enough to slightly damage the cross on top of St Paul's, spoil a few windows, leave a Bible looking dog-eared, slightly devalue the contents of the National Gallery and boil the Serpentine a bit. It would be bad news for anyone who enjoys not burning to death in an incinerated car or bus, and even if you live 4 miles away and were hiding indoors, it was probably going to go down as one of your least favourite afternoons, especially if you've been looking forward to reading Woman's Own. In fact, if you were even vaguely nearby, your body would frazzle like a carbonised lamb chop unless you were standing as far away as Wimbledon, at which point at least one of your eyebrows would survive. Yeah, it looks pretty nasty, but the ladies love a war wound, yeah? You'd be beating them off with a stick. Albeit a burnt, smouldering, radioactive stick. Anyway, in case you're worried the situation seems hopeless, the show went on to highlight some of the defensive measures the average 1980s couple could take. Following the Helpful Protect and Survive pamphlet, the duo whitewash their windows and construct a bijou shelter under the stairs, perfect for enjoying a cup of tea in. And they fare pretty well.
The whitewash keeps 80% of the heat out. There may be fires in unprotected houses nearby, but Joy and Eric should survive. At least for 17 seconds. After that, the blast demolishes their terrace of houses.
The QED Atomic Splattacular proved so entertaining it convinced the BBC to make Threads, possibly the most frightening drama ever broadcast on British television. Threads graphically depicted how a nuclear bomb could cause millions of pounds worth of improvement to Sheffield's architecture. The moment of detonation itself was brilliantly realised, rammed with stark, horrifying images that set amygdala across the nation lighting up like the residents of Sheffield.
Jesus Christ, Donny.
And then just when you think things can't get any worse, they do, because Threads keeps going, trudging into the grim aftermath as Sheffield is transformed into an almost Plymouth-style wasteland in which people eat rats like they're cream buns, and the cast of Last of the Summer Wine is hopelessly depressed, and even Ron Weasley isn't safe. I guess if Threads had an overall theme, it was, oh shit!